Patty, are you ready? Okay. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Common Council meeting for May 12th, 2015. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Fowler.
Here.
Fernsler.
Here.
Markham.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Sedlacek. Hildebrand.
Here.
Williams.
Present.
Let the record show we have a quorum for a council meeting. Next item is the pledge. Please stand. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the approval of the consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved, Alder Markham. Second, Hildebrand.
We have a first and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Markham.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Before we go on to the audience portion, I would like everybody to look at item 8 and the second part of item 8 where it says, and regarding RCG Plymouth LLC. That's where we would stay in closed session for the second part. That's to be removed. And then item 11 is to be removed on this. There will be no action because we're removing it in the closed session. So 11 is out in the second part of the closed session. Thank you. Moving ahead, item 4, audience portion. This is where we recognize people who signed up. You do the talking and we do the listening. Tonight we have one person signed up, Bill Barbier. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Alderman, Treasurer, City Administrator, people here present at the meeting. I'm here this evening as a member of the Plymouth Mill Pond Lake Association Board. And what I'm suggesting is that you do approve item, I believe it's item F on the agenda, which is approve the Plymouth Mill Pond Lake Association to use the Veterans Park from 3 p.m. on Friday, June 5th through the 5th, 5 p.m. on Saturday, June 6th for the second annual fishery and bobber run. Last year, we had our first event and it went over very well. We had many prizes and gifts we gave out. As a matter of fact, probably somewhere in the range of 25 rods and reels, plus a lot of other free handouts and donated items that were given all to the participants of the fishery. And it was well accepted, and I think everyone had a good time. And I hopefully will have a larger attendance this year and will be bigger and better than ever if it is approved. It's a great opportunity to bring our attention to this fabulous Plymouth Mill Pond that we have within our city proper and to for the enjoyment of all the populace. So hopefully you will approve item 3F on the agenda. Also at this time, we'd like to bring your attention to the art auction that we are sponsoring. It's going to be a week from this evening on May 19th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Plymouth Generation Center. Earlier this year, we advertised for students and local artists to artistically finish a 14 by 24 inch fish-shaped plaque. These plaques were finished by our association free to be returned for us for judging, prizes, and then later to be auctioned off this coming Tuesday evening, a week from today. And it's basically to, with the proceeds going to help improve the Plymouth Mill Pond and its surrounding area. The response that we had was much greater than we ever anticipated. We ended up with over 30 student entries and over 30 local artist entries. So we'll have over 60 items that evening to either be on a silent auction or a live auction. If you have an opportunity, please make it a point to stop in next Tuesday evening at the Generation Center to see and possibly bid on some of these fantastic artwork done by the people living in Plymouth. I thank you very much for allowing me to be here this evening and have a few words about these items, and I hope to see you on June 6th and also at the fishery and also next Tuesday night at the auction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. We encourage people to come forward and address the council on items that they have concern about and would like to give a little extra attention to. So we always welcome you, reminding people that we do not discuss things with you. We let you do the talking and we do the listening. Moving on, item 5, resolutions. 5A, number 11, a resolution of accommodation for Commissioner Pete Romer. I would ask Clerk Huberty to read the resolution, and then the chair will entertain a motion.
Whereas Pete Romer was appointed as a commissioner for the City of Plymouth Plan Commission on May 1, 2000, and was reappointed for 4 more terms through April 30th, 2015, representing 15 years of dedication, and whereas Pete Romer faithfully served the residents of the City of Plymouth through his expertise on the Plan Commission and will best be remembered for his fairness, honesty, and courage in making decisions after examining all the facts and weighing all of the comments. And whereas it is fitting and right that the City of Plymouth recognize Pete Romer for his 15 years of service to this community at this time of departure from service on the Plan Commission. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor, the Common Council, and the Plan Commission on behalf of the citizens of the City of Plymouth extend to Pete Romer their deepest appreciation and gratitude for his dedication and service, and that a copy of this resolution be presented to him and also be spread upon the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion.
So move, Alder Nelson.
Second, Alder Hanson.
We have a first and a second to approve the resolution as read. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I think I echo the council's sentiment on the resolution and the long term of Pete Romer dedication to the community, and that's certainly appreciated. Clerk Huberty.
Just to note that the actual plaque and resolution was presented to Pete Romer at the Plan Commission meeting last Thursday.
Last Thursday, correct. Thank you. Moving on, item B, resolution number 12, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of $7,760,000 general obligation refunding bond series 2015A. Tonight we have with us Phil Clausen from Ehlers. And did you want to start it off, or Brian, did you want to introduce? Okay. Welcome to City Council again. And what kind of good numbers do you have for us?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we have great news for you. First of all, there'll be no commentary on facial hair tonight, so we're gonna jump right into the sale packet. In front of you, there should have been a final resolution that was copied and provided prior to the meeting, and then I just handed out this sale packet that I'm going to spend a few minutes to go through. Maybe just to step back to the last meeting, if you recall, we came to you, we're refinancing 2 revenue bond issues. We're not looking to restructure the debt, extend the debt, pay it off early, but really just to do it for savings. And we gave you 3 options. One was to wait until they became callable. So that was option 1. Option 2 is to keep it as a revenue bond. And if you recall, the savings was substantially less than alternative 3, which was convert this to general obligation. And the concern that I pointed out or raised, and I think was discussed to some extent, what would that potentially do to your bond rating? And so we went through the due diligence with Moody's Investor Service. Administrator Jurgis and I had a conference call with a representative from Moody's probably the day after that meeting or shortly after, and got kind of a lukewarm, yeah, this should hopefully not make a difference. Enough for us, I think, to proceed with the thought that it wouldn't impact the actual rating of the city. So we had the actual rating last week, and I can report that the good news is it did not change the city's rating. So if you go, I'm going to start with the rating. If you go up to page 7 again of the sale packet, the last 4 to 5 pages of the sale packet are, for some of you, very similar in format. The Moody's Investor Service rating report doesn't change a great deal. They move things around a little bit, and it's actually a pretty interesting read, especially if you can't sleep tonight. You have the ability to kind of walk through this and kind of learn a little bit about how you stack up, not just against other Wisconsin municipalities, but nationally as well for AA3 communities. So highlights of this, again, you're retained, they affirmed your AA3 rating, which is excellent for the city, because the next jump down, or if you will, is to an A3, and from an A rated to a AA rating is a pretty significant move. But anyway, outlook, there was no outlook. One of the concerns we had was, would they assign an outlook, a negative outlook, potentially due to the increase in debt service. So they now have moved to the front of the rating reports, what could move the rating up and down. So what can move the rating up, significant increase in tax base, and then also income levels, and also moderation of the debt profile. Well, that's exactly what we were talking about. And rating down would be deterioration of the city's tax base, operating deficits, or using reserve funds to fund essentially operations. And then also growth in the city's already above average debt burden. Now keep in mind, and maybe not for you, but for the public, is you have a large debt burden in part now because we have converted a lot of the revenue debt for the utilities to general obligations, so they count that as an obligation of the city. Even though when push comes to shove, you would have probably had to make levy for those payments anyhow if the revenues would have been short. So strengths have not changed a great deal, and that's satisfactory financial operations, positive trends, conservative budgeting practices, and employment access to the city of Sheboygan. The challenges, as you already know, is the debt burden, and then a modest tax base compared to other similar rated communities. You are very small on the small end tax base wise for a AA rated community when you look at it nationally. So all in all, the rest is kind of more detail regarding that. We're really pleased that we got the news that we got, which was yesterday morning. So we were kind of anxious to find out what would happen. So if you go back to page number 1, the actual sale again took place today at 11 a.m. We take bids, and then we compile the bids and provide that in now a little different summary report, which is the first page. We received 5 bids, and the winning bid was Bosq, which is really the Bank of Oklahoma doing business in Milwaukee. It's a long story I'm not going to get into. The low bid, their bid was 1.903%. The high bid was Piper Jaffray out of Minnesota at 1.99. So really a pretty condensed bidding on this issue. One thing you'll notice, your resolution and this packet, the dollar amount is different than what you have in your agenda. And it's been reduced because we received what's now the commonplace, and that's a premium bid. A premium bid is they actually provide you with additional dollars that you can use to then reduce the amount of debt in return for a little higher interest rate. The excess dollars actually is significant enough where it actually is a benefit to the city because you're able to reduce the debt and the overall impact of the issue. And I'll get into that in more detail. So the actual amount to be authorized is $7,615,000, which again is different than what's on your agenda. Underwriting discount, reoffering premium, I'm not going to get into all of that, but I wanted to let you know really what's really important here and why we did this is the savings. And I have a couple spreadsheets I'll go through this with, but it's significantly better for two different reasons. One, rates came in lower, and more importantly, you actually had excess funds in your debt service fund that we were able to use an additional couple $100,000 to reduce the debt even further, which really does enhance the savings that you're going to realize here. So that's a summary, quick summary of it. If you go to page 2 and 3, this is the actual bids that were received. One thing I wanted to mention is that Bosco was the winning bidder, but they also worked with Bank First National out of Manitowoc and SunTrust Robinson Humphrey. So they had a consortium that actually took the bonds. When it's this size issue, we see that a great deal where they have a consortium that's put together and they'll divvy it up between as the different entities may have different appetite and their investors at different appetite. Robert W. Baird was second. If you flip the page, Wells Fargo was third, and Piper Jaffray, as I mentioned earlier, was the fourth. I said we were 5 bids because we had the Bank First National along with Bosk as the winning bid. On page 4, which is in landscape format, this is the before and after. So when I was here and you authorized the amount, if you go all the way to the bottom of the page, what you authorized was $7,910,000. Again, what we're asking you to actually approve tonight is $7,615,000. And again, in part, a significant two reasons. One is the amount in the existing debt service fund. What was required by statute, by the bond resolutions of the revenue bonds was $1,594,000. What you had in there was $1,707,000, so we're able to use the difference to further downsize the issue. So that's one issue. The second is the amount needed for the new reserve fund is less because it's based on max principal and interest, and the rates were lower, so we're able to reduce that as well. So the combination of those items and the premium as a result of the bid, we were able to reduce it by $295,000, which is good news, since it's, again, using up a significant amount of your borrowing capacity. So what does this all mean? If you go to the fold-out page, there's 2 fold-out pages, 5 and 6. What was proposed is on 6. And if you recall, what we identified was an annual savings of about $135,000 to $140,000. I don't. I apologize. Who's missing one? I apologize. That was ironic. I apologize.
See,
I'll hand you mine when I'm done if you don't mind. I was rushing out the door as partly why I think we ended up with one short. I apologize. Well, the final savings is going to be about $160,000 annually, and if you recall, the majority of that is revenue for the utility, but some of it ties back to the tax increment district as well. So the net impact of that is going to benefit both TID and the utility. So again, if you look at the very bottom number, that is the net present value savings as a percent of the outstanding bonds is what that is representing. And we ended up at 6.5% versus about 5.7% difference. So all in all, we thought the sale turned out. I'm not going to take credit for the decision that was made to move forward with the option 3, which is converting it to general obligation, but it didn't harm you because it didn't impact your rating, and it allowed you to really maximize the savings realized for the utility and for the tax increment district.
Excellent report. Any questions of Phil as he slithers his report around the table for Council President Hanson? Administrator Jurgis, do you have any comments or questions? Okay.
I want to also thank both Patty and Brian. They, as we were preparing for the rating call, we did provide them with a lot more detail than we do in some other cases where we had to do an analysis on projected capital going forward, impact of this on the debt, on the borrowing capacity, and showing it being paid down, cash flows for the tax increment district that were updated. So we did present all that as kind of background to help make the case that we weren't just transitioning or moving debt from revenue to GO to shield problems in the revenue utilities. That's not the case, and we wanted to make that case strong, and I thought it turned out well. So appreciate your help in that.
Thank you very much. Chair will entertain a motion for approval of the Resolution 12 for the amount of $7,615,000 general obligation refunding bonds as stated.
So moved, Alder Markham. Second, Alder Hanson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Phil. We appreciate your effort, Phil.
You need it signed now?
Do you have it signed? Just, I need one copy.
Just one
signed,
copy?
And then signed by the mayor and you would attest.
Give me your stuff.
I apologize.
I had fun with that.
So, down to the map. Phil just needs the top copy there.
Yep, just the one.
Fill in the title.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Moving on to item 6 is not needed. We did not remove any items from the consent agenda. Item 7, committee reports and actions, revolving loan committee. Item A, approve revolving loan committee resolution number 1 of 2015. Administrator Jurgis, you want to give us a summary on that, please?
Sure. This is a one-page resolution that you have in your packet, and it's actually a resolution that the revolving loan committee already approved, and you're kind of subsequently approving their resolution. And it's really just 4 points. Recently, staff went through some training with the Department of Administration, who took over the CDBG RLF program for compliance reasons. These 4 statements need to be part of how we do business through the revolving loan fund committee. And rather than amending our manual per se, we're just going to adopt it by resolution to reflect our practices on how we administer the RLF program. I don't know if there are any questions. I think the most, significant, some of the significant change in here, or just to note, is that all projects have to be completed in 24 months, and that the jobs also have to be created in the first 24 months of a project. In the past, that may have been stretched out over the term of the loan, but technically underneath the new guidelines is both the project itself has to be done and the jobs created within that 24-month period.
Good, thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the revolving loan committee resolution number 1 of 2015 as we have in front of us and as was approved by the revolving loan committee.
So move Alder Williams.
Second, Alder Martin.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Nelson.
Yes.
Hildebrand. Fowler.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sedlacek. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 7B, discussion and action regarding revolving loan application from Primetime Cellular, 534 Walton Drive, for a loan in the amount of $19,000, recommended by the revolving loan committee on April 29th, 2015. Administrator Yurgis, you want to give us a summary on that, please?
Sure. Attorney Malblocki is not available tonight, so I'm going to just give a brief report. First, I should note that this loan request was actually made in 2014. The reason why it didn't go to the RLF committee for potential action is because the RLF fund did not have any funds available, and so that was held over until this year. And when funds became available in the fund, we made contact with the applicant to see if they were still interested. Although it's an application from Primetime Cellular, this is kind of a business within a business at the Radio Shack location. The Radio Shack is actually a franchise location. This is not one of the locations that necessarily is being closed because of the bankruptcy. It's a franchise, so it's a different situation. But they're looking to expand their operations and basically be a Cellcom vendor or provider, and that's that Primetime Cellular name that is attached to that. And what the committee recommended is approving the $19,000 loan amortized over 10 years with a 5-year balloon, starting at a 3% interest for the first 2 years and then increasing 1% thereafter. That recommendation is in the April 29th meeting minutes, which should have been in your packet, and that would be item number 4. Questions for me or the clerk treasurer? Or?
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the revolving loan revolving loan application for Primetime Cellular in the amount of $19,000.
So moved, Alder Martin.
Second, Alder Williams.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion or questions? Administrator.
Maybe in 40 years. Well, by the time I'm retired, maybe, right? Hey, wait a minute. I'm going to put Clerk Huberty on the spot. She did one time remind me that potentially in retirement that she could come back as an alder person.
Be his boss.
And be my boss. So she routinely reminds me of that. So, in any case, what I was going to say is just that the first and second agree to the motion or the action approved, the terms approved in the RLF, just
Correct.
that that's part of the record.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
First and second, thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Hanson.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 8, entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85 (1) conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to